Good evening, and I want to welcome everybody to our town hall. This is our midway point town hall, and really it's a little bit past midway as we just passed crossover, where every bill that is in the House of Delegates must pass out of the House, or is in the Senate must pass out of the Senate to cross over to the other chamber to get another hearing. So that just took place on Monday, and now we are gearing up here to hear all of the Senate bills that were passed in the Senate prior to Monday, and that is coming up. I want to welcome all of you, specifically Dr. Bob Schaller's class. I know that they're joining us this evening, and I want to remind everybody that they can submit questions, whether it's on Facebook or in the Q&A section here on the webinar. While I may not see the question, we do have a team that is monitoring them in the background, and we're going to try to get to as many as we can at the end. So joining us tonight is a fellow delegate and frankly, a friend, a close friend, and that's Delegate Mark Chang, who is the Vice Chair of Appropriations, a newly appointed position, which is incredible, and we are fortunate to enough and lucky enough to have him there, for the entire state of Maryland. And when we talk about resources and working with people that can make Southern Maryland better and get us the resources that we need, I often find myself going to Mark. Another guy is Ben Barnes, and then certainly the chair, Maggie McIntosh. But I usually start with Mark because he sits in front of me in the annex as we're kind of banished over here across the street while everybody else is still in the main chamber. Tonight, he's just going to kind of walk us through the Maryland state budget, which is about $50 billion. It is a huge, enormous piece of legislation that constitutionally is the only thing we are mandated to do here in the General Assembly each and every term, or each and every session, excuse me. So with that, Mark, I'd like to welcome you. You represent Anne Arundel County, District 32. It's so great to have you. And I'll let you take the floor, and I'll flip to the next slide.
Great. Thank you very much, Brian. And good evening, everyone. I hope everyone in St. Mary's County is having a great day and enjoying the spring weather that is upon us. A little wet out there, but we would think that the season's turning, and tomorrow we are going to be celebrating Maryland Day. So I wish everybody a happy Maryland Day. And Delegate Crosby has been working very hard for the district in Annapolis these past several days, and especially this past week. Specifically, him and I have engaged a lot specifically on the budget and about helping the people of St. Mary's County. And Brian is a very passionate, he's very energetic and smart. And we, as Brian stated, that we sit next to each other on the House floor, and he is always letting me know about the importance of what's going on in St. Mary's County and the district, and really helping people out during this very difficult and challenging time. A year ago, COVID came upon us, and it's been a very difficult year for all of us. And I know that Brian has been rolling up his sleeves and helping out his district, whether it be with food distribution or helping out in different ways with the pandemic, and letting the district and residents know and families know about the resources that are available through COVID relief. And these are the specific ways that Brian's been out there in the district, and we commend him. We commend him on his leadership. On the policy side, Brian has been working very hard with the legislature on the $50 billion operating budget that we just passed out of the House last week. And now this week, we're working on a $1.1 billion capital budget. And how the process occurs is that we receive feedback all across the state, members of the House of Delegates, and they let us know about the priorities, what is going on in district. And Brian has been very, very attuned to what is going on and what are the needs. And within the package of the $50 billion package with the operating budget and the $1.1 billion capital budget, many of those items specifically go to St. Mary's County and help out the residents and families who are really going through a lot of just trying times right now with recovering from COVID. And with the proximity of where we're located to Washington, D.C., Brian has been working very closely with our federal delegation. And a few weeks ago, the American Recovery Act was passed. And what that did was that brought down $4 billion from the federal government, specifically to help out with the state of Maryland. Earlier this session, we passed a $1.5 billion emergency relief package to help the residents and families all across the state, but especially with the individuals in St. Mary's County. And Brian has been really, prior to session, also looking for different parts of the district that really needs help, and specifically with brick and mortar projects. And some of those projects are actually, they total about $6 million in bond initiatives. And some of those are the historic St. Mary's City, $5 million for design and construction of Maryland Heritage Interpretive Center, $500,000 to $500,000 for the Ridge Volunteer Fire Department and the St. Mary's County Regional Airport, which is a very important part of transportation down in your area there. $500,000 has been allocated to that. So these are the type of specific bond initiative infrastructure projects that Brian has been able to bring home. And he brings it home because he's engaged with the residents down there, and he serves on economic matters and really has been a champion and leader in helping to get our businesses back on track, and as far as stimulating the economy, both locally and globally. And because of that, the state of Maryland is in a very financially strong position, relatively speaking, due to the work that Brian has done on economic matters and helping businesses, small businesses, succeed and to be able to just recover from all the challenges that have been happening. But this budget that we have set forth that is going over to the Senate, and we've been working very closely with the Maryland State Senate and also the governor's administration, Governor Hogan, and everyone has a spirit of collaboration and really want to do what's right in helping people out. And this is a very fiscally prudent budget that we are passing, specifically the rainy day fund. And prior to COVID, the state of Maryland has been a very fiscally prudent state. And we have a AAA bond rating from the different rating agencies. And it just shows that we are, as a state, very attuned and also very disciplined in how we make decisions financially. And Delegate Crosby is part of that decision-making process and understands that it's important to have a strong rainy day fund. So with that, at this point right now, we're going to have about a $1.8 billion rainy day fund after the COVID-19 expenditures. And that's important to know, because we don't know how much longer we are going to be in this situation with COVID. But it's important for us to be able to have a rainy day fund to be able to continue to recover and also be prepared in the future for, hopefully we don't have challenges like this in the future, but that we were prepared and to be able to help out in case there are situations. And Delegate Crosby is a strong champion of education. He believes in having healthy schools and having a healthy environment for our children to succeed. And we've been able to, and Delegate Crosby's been able to increase the direct aid to local schools by $228 million. And that's going straight to our classrooms, straight to our students, so that our students, that they would be in healthy environments and also just be in a situation where we can continue and get back to being a number one in the whole nation with our school system. There's also tax relief that we've really been able to work on, and that includes a $1.27 billion targeted tax relief for Marylanders, especially those who are experiencing financial hardship. And we understand that the population down St. Mary's County is very diverse, and it's diverse. There's families who are doing well and are very fortunate and are blessed, and the families out there who are just, it's tough for them. And as mentioned earlier with Brian, helping out with different youth activities and being at the different food distributions and helping out and to just really provide support, especially to our poor and working families. And that's the type of projects and also specifically legislative agendas that Brian has worked on with regards to the state budget. And some of the other important things I wanted to mention too is that within St. Mary's County, the Board of Education, again, $235 million in direct aid. And in higher education, Delegate Crosby, he's a product of what it means to go out there, work hard, and get a good education and provide for the families and live the American dream. And the American dream is definitely alive, and it's something that Delegate Crosby really thinks about every day. And he's an avid runner, and he really took his talent of running and to be able to help and nurture the next generation of young people right at Lexington Park and Great Mills and California and all those cities down there in the great county of St. Mary's County. And he's been able to just incorporate his passion and talent for different types of sports and able to help students out. And with the University of System of Maryland over there with $87 million for design and construction of a third building. And that's a wonderful asset down there. And as you all know, that is a very vibrant part of our state that's growing down there. And each and every one of you are part of that fabric of the strong economy that's developing in Southern Maryland. And also we also remember our past and remember about the rich heritage and the fabric of St. Mary's County. So Delegate Crosby's leadership, we were able to also bring and to the table for St. Mary's City, $2.3 million for the replacement of the Dove excavation project. And also, again, the regional airport, $1.25 million for the autonomous system center to really help that airport, your airport down there, be up to times with the next generation of technology that's available in a three-notch theater. I tell you now, just with $100,000 for helping that facilities down there and the Chancellor's Point Sailing Center with cable connectivity and security systems, and $73,000 there and $73,000 there. And also globally and on a macro perspective, the state of Maryland has really focused on expanding broadband. And there's a comprehensive package that the legislature and the governor is working on together in really expanding broadband, especially during times where a lot of us are working from on their systems, and the parents they're trying to earn a living and get to work and do their work. And so we've really tried to help out with expanding broadband. And I think this is a comprehensive package to help everybody to be able to get online and having access to online. And again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, that St. Mary's County is very diverse economically, culturally, and with the families, especially out there who are going some very difficult times. As Marylanders, we have something to be really proud of, and that is that there were direct stimulus payments to low-income Marylanders who filed for earned income tax credit. And that average benefit was about $730 to $1,700. And it's the highest in the nation. And Maryland really took the lead on expanding the earned income tax credit and also increasing the childless earned income tax credit by $430. And for those who are going through tough times and went through tough times, the state of Maryland, and because Delegate Crosby serves on the Economic Matters Committee, the Unemployment Insurance Subcommittee, and that subject matter comes all out of his committee. And he's worked very closely with the chairman of the Insurance Committee and working with helping to waive state taxes on unemployment payments and COVID-related loans, and also waiving up to $9,000 in sales taxes for small businesses over 3 months. And I've been down to St. Mary's County. Y'all have some very, very cool places to eat and a lot of cool shops and everything. And Delegate Crosby, he's really a fighter for small businesses and really wants to keep that hometown feel and keep our businesses open down there. So again, with the $9,000 in sales taxes waived for small businesses up to 3 months, and also deferring unemployment taxes for 100,000 small businesses and nonprofits for their 3 months. So it's a lot of different fiscal decisions that have been made by Delegate Crosby, and he's working really hard with the Appropriations Committee. And we talk every day because we sit on the house next to each other on the House floor, and he's letting me know about what is going on in the district and how else we may help. And we have a few more weeks left of session, and so there are still many moving parts, but I would encourage each of you to please reach out to Delegate Crosby's office, and he can share with you what is in the comprehensive budget of the state of Maryland operating in capital. And I really think that St. Mary's County would be really proud of the work that Delegate Crosby has done and will continue to do. And at this time, thank you so much for really the opportunity to be able to speak with you all and share the state budget with you all this evening. And again, it's really been a great honor to present and also work with Delegate Crosby and my friend Brian about all that's going on and how to really push Maryland forward. Thank you very much.
Mark, I appreciate you, and I want to thank you for joining us. I can tell you, I talked to my mom earlier today about coming home from Easter, and I don't think that many nice things were said to me. I'm not even sure I'm invited home yet. So I appreciate all the nice comments you made, and I do appreciate our friendship and you helping us out down here in St. Mary's County to make things happen and bring us the resources that we need, because it is important for our people. So with that, we'll move on, and I just want to say thanks again for joining us, Mr. Vice Chair, and I'll see you tomorrow morning.
Great. I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for the work you do, Delegate Crosby.
Yep. Take care. All right, so we're going to move on just to specific budget initiatives that we put forward this year. And I know Delegate Chang had touched on some of these, but the first is the Historic St. Mary's City got $4.79 million for the design and construction of the Maryland Heritage Interpretive Center. The reality is this opportunity for the state of Maryland to put a flag in the ground on Route 5 in a prominent position and let people know that this museum is making or taking us into the big leagues as we prepare for the 400th anniversary of the state of Maryland in 2034. And I'm going to come back to this at the very end because we do have a bill and we have some exciting news that just broke earlier this week. I will come back to that at the end. The second, and this was a huge priority for us, down in Ridge, the volunteer fire department, the men and women that work down there, or really volunteer down there, give countless hours. We were able to secure them $500,000 for a brand new rescue boat. That is a major, major investment by the state into a volunteer local fire department. And we went back through recent history, and I don't think anybody else has even gotten close to that. So this is a much needed piece of equipment for those men and women that are launching out down off of Ridge and trying to save people in the waterways. And it's a good resource for all of you and the residents who want to be out there and swim. It's a safety precaution or a safety measure for us. And I think that is one of the most proud things that we were able to get, or I've been able to get put into the budget for our county. And then the last is the regional airport. As many of you know, and I've talked about this quite a bit, the regional airport is basically our economic diversity. The base employs 22,500 people. I am fortunate and lucky enough to be part of that employer, or be tied to it. But the airport is growing at a rapid pace. I think it is something like it's grown 6 times the size of it in the last decade, which is crazy. And the state has continually put money into that area, not just through the Autonomous System Center, not just for runway or infrastructure projects, but also through the 3rd building of the Higher Ed Center, which was the largest injection of money from the state since really the Thomas Johnson Bridge. And that was $87 million. So, slide. Okay, yep. And that is actually the second bullet here on the slide. For the first 2 years, in addition to what we've already received, and I just touched on that in the budget in the previous slide, these are the resources that we've been able to bring home to directly benefit our area. And so $235 million went to the Board of Education. Obviously, we passed a blueprint, which that amount of funding state allocation is going to go up. And it's going to make a difference in our public school systems here in St. Mary's. We touched on the 3rd building. For St. Mary's College of Maryland, they get $35.1 million for a new academic building. Historic St. Mary's City, we've touched on the interpretive center, but we're also we got the $2.5 million for the brand new Dove and the excavation projects that go down there. The airport, on top of the 500,000 we got this year, we've already gotten $1.25 million over the previous 2 years. So the state has almost put nearly $2 million of its own money to make sure that St. Mary's County Airport is thriving. And we have turned that money around and really primed the pump for development all around that area. The Three Notch Theater, I know Delegate Chang touched on that. We got $100,000 in capital improvement for reconstruction for those that frequent the Three Notch Theater and for the arts community. And then last, for Chancellor's Point Sailing Center, we were able to get $73,000 so they could do some infrastructure projects and work on the septic system down there. The biggest piece of legislation so far to come out of the legislature so far is the Relief Act. And I know Delegate Chang touched on that. I think he probably touched on the whole thing. I could probably stop after Mark's much more eloquent briefing of what has taken place so far in terms of the fiscal situation here in Maryland. But it was a bipartisan $1.5 billion relief package. And it expanded. The big thing is it expanded and centered around the earned income tax credit. And so all the earned income tax credit is for people who are working and are making low wages. Now, these are working people. It effectively makes low wage work more effective. And these are people that we say, hey, you are contributing to the system. You're working hard. We are going to take care of you and prioritize you. This is probably, if I had to guess, not just in Maryland, but nationally, from an economic policy, the most bipartisan policy that exists. And, you know, I think that you will probably see whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, earned income tax credit constantly coming to the forefront of conversations nationally. And we will probably see constant expansion of it. One thing I have always advocated for is the expansion to fathers who aren't able to claim their dependent children on their taxes, but are in the same situation in a split household. I think that is probably where we're going. But in this bill, it provides direct stimulus payments to low-income Marylanders who file the earned income tax credit. It increases the average EITC benefit from $730 to $1,700, which is now the highest in the nation. And it also increases childless EITC benefit tours by $430. It waives up to $9,000 in sales tax for small businesses, which we know that they have been struggling through this entire debacle of now over a year, and it has been challenging for so many of them. And so this provides tax relief to them. It also provides to them forgiveness on any tax on any COVID loans or grant programs such as the PPP, and it turns $50,000 into minority and small business loans into grants. Unemployment reform, I know that my office, and it has not just been challenging for small business owners, it has been challenging for employees as well. And you know, people have been laid off and hit hard through no fault of their own, and they have struggled. The state of Maryland has had 900,000 claims of unemployment since the start of the pandemic. 40,000 of those, and this is as of about a week ago, so it's not that antiquated of data or outdated data. About 40,000 of those are still being adjudicated, which is a significant amount. In St. Mary's County, I could probably follow up, but last time I checked, which was early February, we were up over 90 people had reached out to the office. Just in St. Mary's County, I'm one of 188 legislators that needed help with the unemployment claim or their unemployment claim. And there have been significant delays. We have people that started their claims in July and still don't have a resolution. We have had people who had started their claim on one computer, and then they went to check on a laptop and it created an entirely different claim. That problem has buffed itself out, but through the entire process, starting of COVID, starting last year to today, there have been numerous challenges of trying to get people's claims processed. And that I didn't even factor in any claims or any challenges we've dealt with on fraud, which we have been ahead of the curve, getting in front of that to combat that. But we passed an entire unemployment reform package. The first one, we're going to study the system as a whole and see what reforms need to be made so that way we can have more timely claims. The second is the Maryland Department of Labor Accountability and Oversight. So we're going to put an oversight committee on top of that. That way, when constituents or citizens of Maryland, residents of Maryland, have questions, they have somebody that they can go to and say, hey, this is the process I was going through. Something didn't go right. Who is accountable here? And they have some remedy mechanism. It also, we allowed ourselves we provided employer contribution flexibility. So that doesn't just exist now when, through the emergency order, but it will continue after that, and that'll be longstanding. So if there's another hiccup or a business owner trips up and goes through a tough time, they can work with the administration to figure out how to provide themselves or benefit from a more flexible unemployment claim. The weekly benefit amount, we increased that. And then the last one, which is a good program, is the work sharing program. And so the easiest way to think about this is, let's say an employer has 2 employees and they can only keep one of them and they don't want to choose. They can work out with their employees some sort of work share agreement where one employee can go for 50% and the other employee can go for 50% of the time. And then they can also claim 50% of unemployment on top of that. And that program is out there. It's a very effective program. We not only enacted it, but we also expanded it to make sure it was as wide as the federal government, which right now our work share agreement, I think, was between 20 to 50%, and we expanded that to 10 to 60%. So if you wanted to have an employee work 60% of the time and claim unemployment for 40%, and another employee worked 40% of the time and claim unemployment for the other 60%, you could do so. And that's just, I think a good timely response, not just to what is happening today, but, it puts us in a good posture to deal with future crises. Okay, so I want to shift a little bit from the budget and talk about legislative priorities or initiatives. So we had 4 bills make it out of the House, which is a pretty good percentage that crossed over into the Senate. The first is ending shifting the clock. So we're going to lock the clock, and it would keep daylight savings time permanent. It is a compact with every state that surrounds us. So that is Delaware, Pennsylvania, Virginia, West Virginia, and the District of Columbia. So not only would the federal government have to modify the uniform time code, but all those other states would also have to enact this shift for it to go into place. I can tell you that it is much more than just an annoyance to move the clocks. There are real safety concerns around the shift, both when we gain an hour, I know that's hard to believe for some people, and when we leap forward. Miscarriages are up, heart attacks go up, strokes go up, car accidents go up, suicides are up. It is a real public health concern to continue to do this. And the real reason it was enacted during wartime was to conserve energy. And almost every study shows that it doesn't conserve energy, or at least it's negligible at best. So hopefully, for me, I just don't want to move the clocks. I know for many parents who have reached out to us, you struggle to get your kids out the door and get them off to school because they don't want to wake up. I hear you. I don't have any kids yet. Hopefully one day, and I don't want to deal with this. So prepping the groundwork for later. House Bill 1004 that makes state credit unions competitive with federal credit unions. It basically just shifts a policy within the administration so that they don't have to reply to every single solitary application. And so if they want it, if they, if a credit union wants to conduct some sort of activity, the administration doesn't have to reply to it. And then that policy would just go into effect. And the best way I can think about it is in the state of Maryland, pocket passage, which if the legislature passes a bill, the governor has 10 days to either sign it or veto it. If he does neither, after 10 days, it's called a pocket passage, and that means it passes without any signature, which is monumental. And so this just really puts our credit unions in line with the rest of the nation so that we can compete with outside state credit unions and financial institutions. HB 656, which increases public access to transportation to early voting locations. So I know that this is an issue I've been working with many people from the community on. And the easiest way to think about this is our early voting center. So what the bill says is if there is a public transportation route that is within 1/2 mile of an early voting center, the public transportation route has to shift and adjust itself to drop off voters in the front of an early voting location. And so if you give the example of Hollywood Volunteer Fire Department, what we do, and STS is a flag stop system. Right now, if you're going north on 235, you would pull the stop system, you get off, you cross 4 lanes or 4 lanes of traffic, then you would walk up that hill, and then you can cast your ballot. All this is saying is you just have to divert yourself back in there and drop our citizens off right in front of the early voting location so that way they can cast their ballot. You can think about this not just from poor people, but for elderly folk that are utilizing our transportation system. And how are they supposed to get up that hill? It doesn't seem like a big deal to me, but to other people, it is a big deal, especially if it's inclement weather. And so we just want to make sure it's easier for people to cast their ballot. And then the last one is House Bill 655. And I know, we've received a ton of questions on this, whether tonight, there's a lot of overlap between the questions. And so, I'll just take a second here to talk about this. First off, I truly believe that the bill is a good democracy bill. People should have the ability to select who their representatives are and advocate them, or advocate for them at every level of government. I truly believe that. And I'll tell you, when I put it in, I really didn't think it was going to get the traction it got. I've openly admitted that. I didn't think that this was, that far-fetched of an idea, because we do it pretty much at every other level of government. In Congress, we vote on congressmen or women in their districts. We vote for me in my district. Many county councils across the state, they do this as well. So I just think that this is the really the right policy. I can tell you, as this issue has played out, it should have never gotten personal, and I apologize for my role in that. And that that was wrong, and it doesn't ever need to go there. And I own up to my piece of that. But I want to be clear that I didn't just put it in for partisanship. I think a lot of people are mistaken when they hear that. Is like, you're just putting it in for Democrats. I mean, yeah, it will certainly make seats more competitive. It doesn't guarantee any result for any one individual, any political party, any race. It doesn't do that at all. And I can tell you that places like Montgomery County, they're in an opposite situation. The bill was amended to have the school board put onto it, which I think was a good amendment, actually offered by Delegate Matt Morgan. And to be completely honest about that, the reason the original bill didn't include the school board is in the House of Delegates, we only have a single issue rule. So when you put a bill in, it can only deal with one issue. And sometimes there are bigger bills, but I just thought, if I'm going to only do one issue, it had to be that issue. So it was a great amendment. We accepted it as a friendly amendment. It made the bill better. It made the bill stronger. And there, Republicans have been shielded from participating on their school boards because of a similar system. I think that it's blown out of a partisan, it's been made to be a partisan bill simply because I think, to be honest with you, I'm the only Democrat in St. Mary's County. And I don't, that's here nor there, but I think that is why that angle was played. And to be honest, I mean, it's kind of funny, down here, obviously I'm the only Democrat and people can assume what they want, and people think that we're super left. But then up the road here in Annapolis, I can tell you, I've been one of the more moderate Republicans, and some of my colleagues joke with me about, caucusing in the Republicans. So I don't really know where that puts me politically, but I think that, it certainly wasn't put in strictly for partisan purposes. Competitiveness, yes, but partisanship, no. And then the last little thing I want to touch on is, my criticism of at-large districts as a whole. And I have, criticized at-large districts because they were proliferated during the Jim Crow era. And this was a way to use a system to benefit a political majority. First off, it was put in place by Democrats. So not really sure, I'm criticizing my own party here back in the day. But then secondly, just because a system was proliferated during Jim Crow doesn't mean that anybody in the system is a racist. It also doesn't mean I'm accusing people of being a racist. I don't know how that came to be or that argument came to be. Certainly was never my intention. And I went back and watched everything, and I never accused anybody of doing that or being that. So not really sure why that ever took off, but it is true. Across the country, this system, at-large systems, have been used to shield out minority populations. It's why the federal government banned it in their elections. It's also why other counties here in Maryland, namely Dorchester in the 1980s and Worcester in the 1990s, were forced by a judge, so there is legal precedent to do this, were forced to go to the system that I am proposing. And I just think that we should probably rid this for the rest of the county commission forms of government that still utilize this to disenfranchise people. All it says is that the votes, if you have districts, the votes must come from that district. That's it. That's all the bill says. So, if you're a strong candidate and you campaign, you shouldn't really have anything to worry about. And that person then goes to the Board of County Commissioners and represents you. And so you could work your tail off and I'm just going to make this up, in District 1. And District 1 could be drastically different than Districts 2 through 10. And you could win District 1 with 90% of the vote. But then you lose all the other 10 districts by a 3-1 margin, and you lose the seat. The person who represents District 1 on the Board of County Commissioners didn't even win the votes from District 1 to represent them. And I don't think that that is right. Additionally, a lot has been made over the fact that, well, nobody ran. Well, I think nobody ran, and I've noticed this when we were running and campaigning in 2018. Nobody ran because most people just told us, like, it's not worth it. I mean, it's a countywide vote, and I don't think I can win the countywide. I could probably win the district. And that's really when the light went off, and I was like, oh, that actually makes a lot of sense. So for those reasons, I brought the bill forward. Yesterday, we had a Senate hearing. I thought it went really well. But now, the bill is in the hands of the Senate, and it's really out of all of our hands, and we will see what the Senate comes back with. I can tell you that Senator Ellis, I've been getting a lot of questions about this. Senator Ellis was outstanding in the hearing. And he also made a couple comments regarding the bill. I don't want to put any words in his mouth, but he made comments regarding the bill that are in the Maryland Matters article. And you can Google that and find it and take his position on it. But I can tell you, he has been fantastic on the issue. And I think what he had said to me is that, I can't go over here and argue equity one way and then come over here and argue it a different way. Under this bill, to be completely honest, and this is another example of it not being partisan, is that Republicans in Southern Charles County will have an opportunity to compete. And I think that's good because you're going to get a better form of government and a better product on their board of county commissioners. And then the last bit was, do I know, what the Senate's going to do or what the governor's going to do? And I don't have a clue. I could tell you at one point what I thought the House was going to do because I walk these halls, but I really don't know what's going to happen. We've pleaded our case. I appreciate everybody that has been involved. It has been a lot of work, and I know that. And it's not just been from our district, but it's been from the entire state, which has been completely crazy to me. How many people have been engaged and involved in this? And to the point where the Speaker of the House of Delegates called this a monumental piece of civil rights legislation, which is surreal to me to still think like, hey, I just had this bill and this idea that was a good idea, in my opinion, for fair representation. And it's just kind of completely taken off by the Baltimore Sun or Maryland Matters, or, I'm on Fox 5. It's like, I got a face for radio, man. It's just been crazy. So we'll keep you posted as soon as we hear the vote. I'm sure we will put that out, whether it's on Twitter or Facebook, but we will certainly keep everybody informed on the progress. The last bill, we are going to hear this on Monday. I just got a hearing date, and I've been working with Senator Bailey in a very bipartisan fashion, is the Fort to 400 bill. And this establishes a commission to create materials and the planned events for the 400th anniversary of the state of Maryland. And that certainly ties into the MHEC, which we had already discussed. But really, it's promoting this archaeological study, which is the major news here, of St. Mary's Fort, which is the first settlement of the English colonialists and Native Americans who they cohabited that. And that's really where St. Mary's County's system of tolerance began and started. And that is a major, 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 major find. And the people at Historic St. Mary's County, at Historic St. Mary's City, from Dr. Faden to Howie Grube to Ellen Fitzgerald to Travis Parno. I mean, these people have, Mary Bohannon, I better not forget her, on up in the doghouse, but these people have worked their tails off to make sure that we have an awesome site for people in Maryland to come visit and learn about their history. And this really is our Jamestown moment. It's a once, maybe a lifetime chance for us to really put some sort of economic plan and development to lure people down here to see our fort, which would be unbelievable. And so, I can't thank everybody down there enough. They have been working their tails off. And this is really, really cool. And on the precipice, or the cusp, of Maryland Day, it's awesome that they get the opportunity to unveil it. I will say at the end of this, I cannot believe Father George didn't tell everybody, because that guy, he can talk, and he was pretty pumped up about it, and it was pretty funny. Okay, so I'm going to close here with COVID. We're not out of the woods yet, as many of you know. And so nationally confirmed, we have almost 30 million cases. We're up almost around 550,000 deaths. Here in Maryland, we've had 402,000 cases. We've had over 8,000 deaths. And then our hospitalizations are up 20 over the last 24 hours, now sitting at 915. In St. Mary's County, very similar. We're seeing, I don't want to say a spike, but a slight increase. And the total amount of deaths here in the county are 120. So nationally, the vaccination effort continues. I encourage everyone who can get a vaccine to get vaccinated. It is extremely important because right now it's a race to get everyone vaccinated before the variants get out of control. And I know that there has been a lot of disinformation around this vaccination. And if many of you remember from our last town hall where we had Dr. Chen in, who's been advising the governor, Dr. Brewster, we have to promote this vaccine as being safe. So if and it's been demonstrated. It went through an FDA process, it went through CDC process. The organizations themselves or companies themselves, they ran trials. So if you have received the vaccine, you need to make sure that you are encouraging your friends or loved ones to also go out and get the vaccine, because the more shots in arms we get, the better. And from my understanding, and the last thing I read was that President Biden said everybody who wants to have the vaccination should be able to have it. I think the last I saw was May 1st. I could be mistaken. It may still be June 1st, at least the first dose by May 1st. So that is major, major news. Now we just need to encourage people to get there. In the grand scheme of things, St. Mary's County is still the best county in the entire state in terms of making sure our people get vaccinations into their arms. And then the last little thing I would just say is I know that yesterday Governor Hogan expanded how many mass vaccination sites we are. He went from 6 to 12, doubling them. One of the concerns many of you reached out to us or our office about was the Charles County vaccination site, which there was a report coming from the Baltimore Sun that said that the Charles County vaccination site was vaccinating more people from out of state than they were from Charles County. And I think that on its surface, yeah, I mean, that definitely is jarring to me, and we need to look into this. But I also want everybody to keep in mind those individuals that came from out of state could be working in Charles County and qualified for them. So I think that there's a little bit more digging to do to get the full picture, to fully understand. But certainly we want to make sure that we are prioritizing Maryland residents and especially Southern Maryland residents to not just access both the St. Mary's County vaccination site, which is, I mean, it's about as good a drive-through as Chick-fil-A, as well as the Charles County vaccination site. So with that, I think that concludes our presentation. I know that we have a couple questions here. Let me get rid of this. Stop screen sharing. Okay. And I will then bring up some of the questions that we got. So the first question we have is, how likely is 655 to pass the Senate? Do you think the governor will sign HB 655? Did it pass with a veto-proof majority in the House? And do you expect the veto-proof majority in the Senate? So, I had already kind of touched on this earlier. Is I don't know what it's going to look like in the Senate, and I don't know what the governor is going to do. I can tell you it did pass the veto-proof majority in the House. And I can tell you, no, it was a veto-proof. I don't know specifically how many votes, but hang in there 1 second and I'll get you that answer. I also don't know when it will be brought up for a vote in the Senate either, whether it's in committee or it is on the full floor. So it passed 95 to 39 in the House. So, 85 is the veto-proof majority. So we're 10 above that. Okay, so would you support applying the same principle, HB 655, to the at-large delegate districts? Yeah, so I think what we're referring to, I don't know that there's any at-large districts. I think what we're referring to is multi-member districts at the state level. And there are several different jurisdictions. I know, like, I believe Baltimore County has one, as well as the Eastern Shore. And look, I think that this is a much, much bigger conversation. The short answer is, yeah, I fully support competitiveness. And so I think that, there's a couple things we could probably do. The first is the federal government should, at every level, or should pass a massive bill, and I think they have HR1 out there right now to deal with gerrymandering and to end gerrymandering. I think it should include every election, from congressional districts all the way down to school board, in my opinion. And that way you have somebody at the very top saying, this is how we are going to conduct our elections. They're going to be fair. Additionally, maybe something that the state could look into is forming a compact, similar to what I did with daylight savings, and saying, look, if we can all agree on this system, and we'll bring into the fold Republican states and some other Democratic states, and percentage wise, we get a large enough majority so that it is fair across the board, we can adopt a system that does that, and picks it. Now, I am a huge proponent and fan of let's line up and let's duke it out. I mean, that's not just here in the election, it's just in general in life. And so I want one-on-one. I don't support in my district, a multi-member district. I just, to me, draw it up, make it 50-50, and let's go at it. And whatever happens, happens, to the better person, the better candidate. That's who should win. And I think that is fair. And frankly, I think that that's just across the board what we should do. Okay, next, is it possible to expand the shoulder on St. George's Church Road and lower the speed limit to allow pedestrians and bikes safer access to St. George's Cecil Park? So, excuse me. First, I think St. George's Church Road is not a state road. It is a county road. So that would be something that the county commissioners would certainly need to weigh in on. But what I can say is, excuse me, from a broader perspective, I think that we need to really start rethinking transportation across the board and really forming comprehensive plans that incorporate much more than just roads and rails. We have a huge biking community down here in St. Mary's County, and they bike onto the base each and every morning. And, you do worry about their safety, especially when there's not a lot of light out in the winter months. So, I would certainly support expanding that roadway to make sure, or incorporating any kind of safety measure to make sure that it is more friendly to people who are biking in. And then can we extend the light timing of Indian Bridge Flatiron relative to Point Lookout Road? Point Lookout gets over 3 minutes to Indian Bridge and 30 seconds to Flatiron. Yeah, so this is something I am intimately familiar with. The number one issue that I obsess about each and every day is fixing 5 and Great Mills, and we have started the conversations. Really not the conversations, but we have started talking to, or State Highway has started talking to landowners to make sure that they can procure them as we go through the right-of-way process. And this is the very first step in this, and it's going to take a little bit of time. But part of that has to do with this light. And so we will reach out to State Highway to see if we can kind of pluck that out of the study that is already done. But my guess is, having dealt with State Highway quite a bit, is that we will have to do another study, and they're going to examine the light there, and they will have to study the traffic patterns before any changes can be made by State Highway. We can't just arbitrarily do that. State Highway controls that entire process, which, it can be lengthy at times. Let's just put it that way. But it doesn't necessarily mean that doing a traffic study is the worst thing. So we will reach out tomorrow and see if we can pull that out of the 5 and Great Mills plan. If we can't, we'll request a study to be done to see if they can adjust the timing. I can tell you, I have requested timing on 4 lights now, 4 lights, I think, or several lights in the county. The one that sticks out to me is Hermantown, or excuse me, Herman Bridge, which is just south of, right by K3, Hermantown Road, and they didn't adjust that. We also tried to adjust the turn as you come over the bridge on 4 to make a left on the 235. We tried to adjust that in the morning hours. And also, that also was denied, and it is Hermanville. So I apologize. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. So we will request it, and I will follow up. I don't know. I'll follow with Ren to make sure we have who specifically asked that question. But if we don't have it and your name wasn't submitted, if you could just email the office, that way we have it and we can follow up with you. If not, we'll try to put it in an email so we can follow up and make sure you get the answers. And then the last question here, oh, no, I apologize. It's not the last question. How do we know the process of broadband in my part of the county and my road specifically, Holly Drive? Smecco's, okay, so, yep. So a couple things. The first thing we did was the first year we came in, we passed a bill to allow utilities to lease out their electrical lines for broadband access. As a result of the legislation we passed in those previous, or in that previous legislative session, Smecco has begun the process of starting to figure out the granular details of how that's going to work through a subsidiary. Where is that going to go? How are they going to pipe it to the homes? And what does that overall corporate structure look like? And then the mechanics of how to deliver it, which is a great first step because many of you already have broadband, or excuse me, you already have the fiber optic that is running to your house to read your meter. And in today's world is something I've talked about 4 million times. Now, I don't know how you survive in today's economy or in an education sector if you don't have the internet, and it is a real problem. The other one, which is a great bill, is House Bill 1328, and that is from Delegate Feldmark. And that had a Senate crossfile, which was Senator Katie Frey-Huster, both of which are from Howard County, and they would alter and expand the current Rural Broadband Assistance Fund to expand high-speed internet access in rural areas in the state. And it enables service providers to partner with MDOT on trenching projects. So what we say is, we're going to build this road. We might as well run the piping for internet right then and there, so we don't have to dig the road up later if we know we're going to have to do it anyway. So it may cost a little bit more upfront, but long-term savings are significant because you don't have to lay a road, dig it back up, and relay it. You are already prepped for when those lines come to run them underneath the roads at a much, much quicker rate. So it is a great government streamlining bill, and I think that it is a way to lower overall capital expenses and let a dollar stretch farther. Okay, so where will the new interpretive center of Historic St. Mary's City be located? That's a great question. It's actually going to be between the old State House Road and Route 5, and it would be an extension of the new Anne Arundel Hall complex. So it would be right there on Route 5. If you're going from my house down to where I work on Webster Field full time, or as my favorite constituent Mikey calls it, IRL, in real life. So it would be right there on the right as you go around the bend for the college. So it'll be front and center, and it'll be a huge attraction. And that would be in front of where the parking lot is, and Enzo's Bakery, which has got phenomenal bread and sandwiches. What's the status of banning plastic bags? That was House Bill 314 by Delegate Learman, and it passed the House on March 10th. So it's crossed over to the Senate, and we have worked with Delegate Learman and other members of the St. Mary's County delegation to include amendments to help small businesses and farmers adopt to a new uniform standard. And I can tell you, one of my biggest concerns was this issue of preemption. Now, I supported the bill this year. Last year, I did not, actually. And the reason I didn't is because what is challenging for so many businesses is if you own two businesses in two different jurisdictions, and over here we have one bag standard, and over here we have a different one, it is very hard for these businesses to find the supply to make sure both of them have adequate bags that meet the standards of different jurisdictions. This year it comes in, it caps everything at 8 mil. And I know a lot of businesses and retailers at the end were very, very supportive of this idea because they just can't meet the different jurisdictions' needs. It gets to become a nightmare logistically for them. And then the last question the last question in the evening is, will there be any tax relief for retirees? And as I mentioned earlier, the General Assembly passed a $1.5 billion tax relief program. Retirees will certainly receive all the tax relief that they're eligible for under those programs. Additionally, I've pushed many state leaders to expand the tax relief program in the past, especially to seniors in our fixed income that are around or near the poverty line because of the high cost of living. And that's certainly true here in St. Mary's County. Affordable housing is a serious issue. It's a serious issue for our retirees and senior population. I can also tell you that on one of the bills, and I would have to go back and pull it, I don't remember what one it was specifically, but we tried to amend on tax relief for retirees, and I did support that amendment, which would have essentially eliminated any kind of income tax on retirees here in the state. I know it's a major issue for so many people who, in their golden years are trying to get by and they want to stay here with their grandkids. I know that that is a major, major, major issue. And I recognize that. I've tried to support that in the past. On the flip side, I know taxes are a very complex and can be a challenging issue to discuss. And I can assure you that your tax dollars, and trying to circle this back and tie it into the budget, are hard at work, not just coming back here to the district, but Maryland is home to some of the best airports. It's home, well, one of the best airports, but it's also home to some of the best medical institutions and universities and colleges, whether it's Johns Hopkins or Flag, which is the University of Maryland, here at Historic St. Mary's, St. Mary's College of Maryland, which is an absolute hidden gem. We provide really good quality education and good services for our tax dollars. And all of that needs to be factored as we talk about this. So in closing, I just want to thank everybody for coming this evening. I can't thank you all enough for joining us. I hope tomorrow you all enjoy Maryland Day, are able to take part and watch the virtual celebration at Historic St. Mary's and see more about the development. As I said in the beginning, this is our Jamestown moment, and this is a big deal for St. Mary's County and the state of Maryland. And we really want to lead and showcase this across the board to everybody and make sure the word is getting out. And so with that, I want to sign off and say, hope all of you have a happy Maryland Day. And to my fiance, tomorrow morning is her birthday. So happy birthday to her. I'll talk to you all soon and take care.